How do you feel about the word no? No. It's an innocent sounding little word, easy to spell in English, only 2 letters. No is a favorite word of toddlers and children everywhere, even though it drives parents absolutely crazy. Like, hey, put your coat on, it's snowing outside. No. Hurry up, we're going to be late for school. No. Can you just eat your dinner, please? No. No comes naturally to kids, and actually it's an important part of their psychological development. You can look that up. It's very interesting. No comes naturally to kids, but no can be surprisingly difficult for adults. We don't like hearing no, of course, but often we don't like saying it either. Maybe we don't like no because we don't want to let people down. Maybe we don't like no because we don't want to hurt someone else's feelings, or maybe we don't like no because we grew up in a context where no wasn't really okay and there wasn't really a lot of room for that. So saying no makes us feel like selfish or guilty or ashamed. But people who don't like saying no end up having to say a lot of yes. Now, on the one hand, yes sounds great, doesn't it? Like, we love it when people say yes to us. I do. Hey, can I join your game? Yes. Can I have another piece of pie? Yes. Will you do me a favor? Will you give me a ride? Will you marry me? Yes. 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 We all love yes. But not all yeses are created equal. And here's the thing. The yes we say when we really mean yes is not the same thing as the yes we say because we're afraid of saying no. Let me repeat that. The yes we say when we really mean yes is not the same thing as the yes we say because we're afraid of saying no. The yes we say because we're afraid of no is a compromised yes. Or I heard one speaker refer to it once as a dirty yes. A dirty yes is a yes I don't really mean. It might be a dirty yes because I say yes with my actions, but I don't actually intend to do the thing I said I would do. Or it might be a dirty yes because while I said yes and intend to do what I said I would do, I'm going to do it resentfully. And so my relationship with you might become a lot more strained than if I had just told you flat out what I wanted or thought or needed. For yes to be a genuine yes, we need to mean it, and mean it wholeheartedly. Now, just as an aside, I'm not suggesting that, we need to feel enthusiastic about every yes we say. We all have certain things that we do and believe in doing. We do them because we believe they're the right thing, but we aren't necessarily excited and enthusiastic about doing that. Nobody really wants to put on their mask before they go to the grocery store, or you might not feel like tying your kid's shoes for him again one more time. You don't have to feel excited about each and every yes you say, but on a deep level, you do have to really mean it. And that kind of yes works best in a context that also has room for and understands no. We've been journeying through the book of Ecclesiastes throughout the month of October here at Highview. We did take a 1-week pause to hear from Greg Whitfield from E3 Partners, but mostly Ecclesiastes has been sort of our theme throughout October. And if you've been following this series along with us, or if you've ever tried to read Ecclesiastes on your own, then you might have noticed that Ecclesiastes seems to pretty much be the book of the Bible dedicated to the word no. Habel is Ecclesiastes' version of no. Meaningless, fleeting, like a breath. And this is what the teacher, Koheleth, repeats over and over again. Human wisdom is meaningless. Money, meaningless. Human righteousness and human endeavors and work, all of it, Habel, meaningless, like a breath, amounting to nothing. It's not hard to see why lots of people don't like reading Ecclesiastes, and Eric, who taught us last week, shared a little bit about his own struggle kind of slugging through Ecclesiastes, and certainly I don't think he'd be the only one who feels that way. Ecclesiastes is not very inspiring, especially not when we compare it to something like Isaiah or the Gospels, and we might be tempted to sort of brush off the words of Koheleth as, you know, just the words of a cynic. Eric was talking last week a little bit about reading Ecclesiastes in the context of grief, and as Ecclesiastes being a book of the Bible that makes space for grief, and that's certainly one good way to approach it. But, and Eric mentioned this too, Ecclesiastes is part of our scriptures, and so we can assume that God included it in there for a reason. I think that if we let him, Koheleth can teach us some important things about God and about life that we might not pick up anywhere else. In his discussion on Ecclesiastes, longtime pastor and writer and scholar Eugene Peterson says that the book of Ecclesiastes functions more like a bath than like a meal. It doesn't nourish us necessarily with any new kind of spiritual insight, but what it does is washes us of many of the illusions we might have about God and about life. All throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, Koheleth is kind of like knocking down these human idols, one after another after another. Wisdom, meaningless. Pleasure, meaningless. Human work, human plans, meaningless, meaningless. Habel, like a breath, amounting to nothing. And after 11 and a half chapters, you know, what we find is that a lot of the things that we are inclined to pour our time into and pour our energy into have been written off by the teacher as Habel, meaningless. And then finally, at the very end of the book, we arrive here. Ecclesiastes 12, 9-14. Not only was the teacher wise, but he also imparted knowledge to the people. He pondered and searched out and set in order many proverbs. The teacher searched to find just the right words, and what he wrote was upright and true. The words of the wise are like goads, their collected sayings like firmly embedded nails given by one shepherd. Be warned, my son, of anything in addition to them. Of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. The biblical author reminds us that the words of Koheleth can be trusted as part of the biblical canon, and we're not just reading the rantings of some cynic. He says, "The words of the wise are like goads." Now, do you know what the word goad means? I didn't know and I had to look it up. So a goad is a tool that a shepherd would use to try to move an animal in a certain direction, even if it doesn't really want to go there. So it's a long, sharp, pointy stick that a shepherd uses to get some sheep or cattle or goats where he or she wants it to go. So just stop and think about that for a second. The author of Ecclesiastes is telling us that sometimes wisdom is a lot like being poked in the butt with a sharp, pointy stick. And Ecclesiastes does that for us fairly effectively, even if it maybe doesn't feel very nice. Lots of the things we tend to spend our time and energy doing, lots of the things we lose sleep over and worry about are the very things of which Koheleth says, Habel, fleeting. It really amounts to nothing in the end. But here is something worth your time and your energy. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 13. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. 2020 has been an Ecclesiastes kind of year, I think. I would definitely nominate Ecclesiastes as Biblical Book of the Year for 2020. And I kind of picture Koheleth as this guy with a BB gun, and he's shooting down a row of targets. The COVID-19 pandemic, racial injustice, climate change, violence, hurricanes. As we've lived through all these things, it's like watching our idols fall one after another after another. It's like seeing so much of what we trusted in fall, like the houses of cards they've been all along. And while I don't want to minimize or trivialize the pain or the damage that lots of people have suffered, continue to suffer right now because of all of this, I think what 2020 has done for many of us is really reveal a lot of the things that we were hoping in and trusting in that turn out not to be able to save us after all. Money can't save us. Governments can't save us. Education, political power, none of that is going to be able to save us in the ways we most need to be saved. In other words, human beings are very smart, and we can solve all kinds of problems and overcome many challenges, but we are incapable of saving ourselves in the ways that we most need saving. We need someone else to do that. We need God. We need God to welcome us and embrace us and rescue us. We need God to say yes to us on a more fundamental level than we need anything else that we think we need. And here's some good news. God doesn't do dirty yes. Numbers 23 verse 19 says this: God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak and not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? The yes of God is not some kind of fire insurance policy. It's not like the yes we find in advertising. It's not like the yes we sometimes hear from politicians or even religious people who are willing to say, what they need to say to get others to do what they want them to do. The yes of God is not a cheap yes, not a dirty yes. Eugene Peterson puts it this way: we must confront the breezy, irresponsible nonchalance that avoids hard difficulties and shuts its eyes to the worst suffering. We must demonstrate that the trumpet sentence, "In him it is always yes," can only be sounded in a world in which Job's doubt and pain are affirmed. In a world in which David's disintegrating family and harassed kingship are accepted. A world in which Peter's denials and bitter weeping are acknowledged. A world of shipwreck and rejection, famine and plague. A world in which Jesus Christ hangs on a cross, feeling in every nerve end the physical and spiritual disorder of a world that says no to God. The yes of God is a real yes. It's the yes of the empty tomb, which means that it's a yes that acknowledges all that is not right in the world. And that's good news. God's yes is yes in the face of COVID-19. God's yes is yes in the context of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the residential school system. God's yes is yes in the face of the climate crisis and in the face of human stupidity and human violence, both on the world stage and in each and every individual human heart, including mine and including yours. God sees fully, acknowledges fully, knows fully all that is broken and wrong in our world, in our relationships, in our power structures, in our hearts. God sees all of that and enters it and saves us right from there, like nothing else ever could. So let our idols fail. Let them fail. Because only after they've let us down will we be encouraged to put our trust and our hope in the living God. And God has only ever been our only hope. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 14. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Join me in prayer. God, let our idols fail like the houses of cards they've been all along. And when the things we're tempted to trust in have proved themselves useless, let us turn to you, the rock, the only one solid enough to build our lives on, and the only yes deep enough to save us.